Big data, it's everywhere. It powers the apps we use every day, it tells us what movie to watch next, and it's literally changing the world. But here's the thing. Behind all that incredible power, there are some pretty serious hidden dangers. So today, we're going to peel back the curtain, look at those risks, and figure out how to tame the data dragon. All right, let's get into it.
Look, we all get so much out of these systems, right? It's amazing. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side is about the hidden costs, the potential for things to go sideways in ways we might not even see coming. So what are those costs really? That's the big question we're tackling today.
And to answer that, we've got to look past all the hype. Because once you get beyond the buzzwords, you find this really complex landscape of risks that honestly every company and every single one of us needs to understand.
So I want you to think about big data like a powerful dragon. It's guarding this incredible treasure, all these insights, efficiencies, and new ideas. But this isn't some simple beast. This dragon has 3 heads, and each one represents a totally different kind of danger that we have to face.
So what are these 3 heads of the dragon? Well, they are the risks that are hiding in the data itself, in the algorithms that crunch all that data, and in the human operations that manage the whole show. Getting a handle on these 3 areas, that's step 1 to taking back control.
Let's start with that first head, the data. This is the foundation for everything. I mean, think about it. If the bricks you're using to build a house are cracked and broken, the whole house is going to be unstable, right? Same thing here.
And the ways it can go wrong? Oh, there are plenty. You've got poor quality data, just full of mistakes. Then there are massive privacy violations, where data that's supposed to be anonymous can actually be traced right back to a person. The data itself can be biased, reflecting ugly parts of our history and leading to unfair decisions. And of course, you have the big ones, security breaches, data leaks, not to mention just messy governance, where no one's really in charge. Each one of these is a huge problem waiting to happen.
Okay, on to the second head of our dragon, the algorithm. You can think of this as the brain of the operation. It's what takes all that data and makes decisions. But, these brains aren't perfect, and they have their own special set of dangers.
For example, a model can overfit. That means it gets an A+ on the test data, but then completely bombs in the real world. Or models can drift. As time goes on and the world changes, they just get less and less accurate. One of the biggest issues, though, is what we call the black box problem. That's when the model makes a decision, and we have absolutely no idea why. It's a total mystery. And on top of all that, these algorithms can even be attacked and tricked, so the logic itself can be a huge weak spot.
And that brings us to the third and final head, operational risk. This is all about the people, the processes, the day-to-day stuff that surrounds the technology. You could have the world's best data and the smartest algorithm, but if the human systems around them are a mess, the whole thing can still come crashing down. So what does that actually look like? Well, it could be costs just spiraling out of control because nobody's managing the resources properly. It could be breaking major privacy laws like GDPR and getting hit with massive fines. Sometimes it's as simple as not having the right people with the right skills. And, maybe the most critical, is having no plan for when things go wrong. No backup, no recovery strategy. It just goes to show the tech is only one piece of the puzzle.
Whew. Okay, so we've met our 3-headed dragon. It sounds pretty scary, right? But here's the good news. It can be tamed, and the way we do it is by having the right toolkit for control.
And the strategy for this is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It all boils down to 3 steps: prevent, detect, and correct. First, you want to prevent risks from ever happening. Proactive safeguards. But if something does slip through, you need to be able to detect it, and fast. And once you've found a problem, you have to have a solid plan to correct it. Prevent, detect, correct. It's that simple. So what does prevention actually look like? Well, a really fundamental technique is called de-identification. It's basically the process of taking a data set and stripping out all the personal stuff. Names, addresses, anything that could link the data back to a specific person. It's a cornerstone of protecting people's privacy.
And we can get pretty sophisticated with this. For example, with K-anonymity, the goal is to make sure any one person's record in a dataset looks exactly like at least a few others, so you can't pick them out of a crowd. Then you have L-diversity, which makes sure that within any group of similar-looking records, there's a good mix of sensitive information. And T-closeness goes even further, ensuring that the mix of information in a small group mirrors the mix in the entire dataset. These are some seriously powerful tools for preventing privacy problems before they start.
All right, that all sounds good in theory, but how does this stuff actually play out in the real world? Let's take a look at how these control strategies are used to solve actual, tangible problems. So here's a classic scenario. A bank's AI model for approving loans seems to be biased against women and younger people. That means good, qualified applicants are getting denied for unfair reasons. So what's the fix? First, they detect the problem using special fairness metrics that clearly show the bias. Then they correct it by retraining the model, but this time with specific instructions to reduce that bias while still making accurate decisions.
Okay, one more case. A big retailer wants to analyze what its customers are buying, but they absolutely cannot violate their privacy. Here, the strategy is all about prevention. They can layer on multiple protections. They use something called pseudonymization to swap real identifiers for fake ones. They can use differential privacy, which adds a tiny bit of statistical noise, so you can see broad trends but not individual people. And they top it all off with strict rules about who can even see the data in the first place. See, it's a defense-in-depth approach.
So, after going through all the dangers and the solutions, what's the big idea here? What's the one thing you really need to remember to get big data right? Here it is. Risk isn't just one thing in one place. It's a life cycle. It flows from one stage to the next. A problem that starts in the data will infect the algorithm, and a mistake in operations can bring the whole thing down. You have to think about this entire chain, from start to finish. And this really puts it all together. If you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this. You have to manage that entire data, algorithm, operation lifecycle. And you do it with that simple, powerful prevent, detect, correct framework. That right there is the secret to taming the data dragon. And that's our journey for today. Well, I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Now that you know about all these hidden risks and the ways to control them, how is that going to change the way you look at the apps and services you use every single day? It really makes you think, doesn't it? Thanks for watching.